Hi, this is Elisa Clickinger, and as we kick off Women's History Month, I thought it so appropriate to open the month with Cris, Sommer, Simmons. I am so glad that you're here with me to talk about these wonderful ladies in the past that have shaped our future, really.
Great. I'm
Welcome.
so happy. I'm so happy to be here. And I'll tell you what, talking about the history of women in motorcycling is my passion. And I thank you for thinking of me. And you are actually somebody that's always on my radar. I love what you're doing. I love your books. I love your encouraging, your mentoring programs, your trips, and the suffragist ride was really fun. And great to see you.
Thank you. Well, just a little bit of background. I love your book, The American Motorcycle Girls. And I have to say that this was really my guiding force. I love doing these big motorcycle trips for women, and there's so much history in there. I love wrapping these events around historical events and celebrating female motorcyclists. And so I'm hoping you can share with us maybe some of your favorite characters from the past who've been really inspiring on your journey.
Well, I started collecting these photos so many years ago, and there's so many women that really paved the way. And my whole job that I decided to take on was to put this collection of photos together so that we would have these women so we would not forget them. And so people would remember them and we could pass it on and, have it all together in one, now that I did the book, other people want or sent me photos, and I wish I could do another version, but we'll see, maybe someday. But some of the women in there are so inspiring, and people say, well, when did women start riding? Well, women have been riding as long as men have been riding. And really there weren't many photos of a lot of us, but we were always there. And during my research, I found that out. It really started with the bicycles, because women started riding bicycling was a really big deal in the early 1900s. Everybody was doing it. And it was a big deal. Women started wearing pants because of the wheel, because of the invention of bicycles. Yeah. And your skirt would get caught in your spokes. So really, some of the early women that inspired me, of course, were like Clara Wagner, being a test rider for her dad, George Wagner, who started the Wagner Motorcycle Company in Minneapolis so many years ago, like 1907, I believe. She was the first woman in 1910. I didn't read my book lately. I hope I get the dates right. To do a race. She did a endurance ride from, I think, Chicago to Indianapolis and back. And she was denied a medal because she was a woman, and all the guys chipped in, and they were so inspired by her that they awarded her a medal. And I actually have been in touch with her granddaughters, which is really fabulous. That's the thing I love about this, that people will find me now, and I get to meet all these wonderful ladies. There's so many. You probably heard of a lot of them. Everybody knows about Dot Robinson, the Van Buren sisters, as you well know. You did that ride, the Centennial ride. The Van Buren sisters, who were the first women to ride solo motorcycles across the United States. In 1916, they rode Indian Power Plus motorcycles. And then Effie Hotchkiss, of course.
Now, she and her mother were the first women to ride across the United States on motorcycles.
Yep, they left, they had a sidecar. Effie was kind of a tomboy girl. We call us tomboys, you know how that is. But she was well known for riding motorcycles, and then decided she was going to do this trip to California. And her mother's like, well, if you're going, I'm going too. So Effie had to get a sidecar, which I can't believe to this day. I would probably not be hauling my mother across the United States to decide. Well, maybe I would have. But anyway, they had a really amazing adventure. Can you imagine what that was like? I mean, there were no roads, really no maps.
I can't. I can't imagine it. They just used farm roads and trails, and so much of that was, we had certainly been west, but there was nothing developed going from east to west. I mean, there might be the roads kind of stopped at Chicago back then, right?
Right. Yeah. And then you talk about brave. Can you imagine? I mean, asking someone directions, and then, where did you get gas? I mean, I ride a 1915 Harley, the same make and model as Effie. That's why I named my bike Effie. And I know you could go maybe 50 or 60 miles and you need to fill up. And the roads, oh my God, they're horrendous. We have these nice paved roads. They had like ruts and mud, and anyway, they're so brave, and I'm so proud of them, having them in my book, and getting to kind of know them and share them with other people. It's really been fun too.
Well, I certainly appreciate it. That was the whole basis for my trip. And in 2016, that was in 1916, was the year that the Van Buren sisters went across the America, of course, and I just didn't make it. It was 2015 was too soon for me. Otherwise, I would have that centennial ride would have been celebrating Effie and Avis. But
sure, and I think about them every time I do one of these rides on these old bikes. I think about them all the time. I channel them, thinking, "Oh gosh, are you with me?" So
yeah, I'd like to really underscore what you said about women riding having ridden motorcycles as long as men have ridden motorcycles. I was at a display at the Berkshire Museums which is where we started the Centennial Ride. It was part of Berkshire, was where the Indian motorcycles were made, and the Berkshire Museums have a lot of their early bikes there, and they have a really interesting display, Harley versus Indian, and it talks about because both companies started around the same time, and how each one of them advanced. And what I was really struck by then through that display was how motorcycling was for everyone. It was really it was really an activity for the more elite classes. It was that step up. Bicycles and motorcycles were that step up from horse and carriage. And so if you were from a wealthier family, you just, whether you were a man or a woman, you just rode, because that was the cool thing. And
well, motorcycles were cheaper than cars when cars first came out. So a lot of people were riding motorcycles, and then it became like a weekend thing, and then it became like a family thing. I mean, think about the clubs, all the pictures, those big panoramic, beautiful photos of all the people in their bikes, and their women are in there, the men and the kids and everybody. It became a weekend thing where people get together and they have picnics and they'd have these rides. This is before cars. Then cars in the 20s started being more affordable. And I think that's where motorcycles kind of dropped out a little bit. You saw so many brands in the teens that didn't make it into the 20s because of that, I think. Yeah.
So I believe that you curated a display of female motorcyclists in the San Francisco airport last year. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, it's during COVID, of course, when not many people were flying. But anyway, they got a hold of me because they wanted to, they heard about my book, and they wanted to use some of the photos from my book to make a women's display. And I was like, yes, because I've been flying through San Francisco for so many years, and they always have wonderful exhibits. The San Francisco Airport Museum, people don't realize it's an actual beautiful, they have a huge building near the terminal, and they have this collection. It's amazing, curators and archivists. And so I worked with them. I loaned them some photos, and they blew them up. In the whole hallway by the United Terminal gates, Terminal 3, were these big 5 by 5 foot tall panels of women from my book, and then had a little story about each one, and then had a thing about my book, which was great. And then they asked me if I knew anybody that had a cannonball bike. I was like, well, yeah, I actually have one. Hello. So I loaned them Effie, my 1915 Harley, and my husband had a 1915 Ivor Johnson. They had, I think, maybe 12 bikes, and those were in the international terminal. So they were in a big glass cases. They weren't right near the other photos. So it was in 2 separate places in the airport. And I just got them out of there, I think, in this a couple months ago, in October, November. So they were there for a year. And the best part is they gave me the panels, the big photo panels. And they said,
my goodness.
They go, do you want? I'm going to use them for some exhibits. I think we're going to do something. The vintage, Paul Dorlins and I were talking about doing something maybe at the Peterson Museum. The Harley-Davidson Museum has expressed interest in them, and they're going to throw them away. I'm like, what?
Heck no.
No way. So I picked them up. I got them in my van. We kind of crunched them in there, and I've got them all up in California in my garage.
Oh,
so
neat.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see their next life. So
better than the landfill.
Yes, exactly.
That's what they said. Yeah.
Have them inspire future versions of us loving motorcycles.
For sure. The best part about it, I'd fly through that airport, and I'd go walk through the exhibit, and I would see all these people looking, and men, and they're taking pictures of it, and they're with their daughters. And I was like, how cool is that? So it really did touch some people.
Oh, neat, neat, neat. It would be really neat to see your work and what you brought to life. I mean, if you hadn't written that book,
Yeah,
this
I
book,
guess so.
American Motorcycle Girls.
4.5 pounds, let me tell you. It gets hefty after a while.
Awesome. It's awesome.
I
But
love
if
it.
you hadn't written that, how many people wouldn't know about those ladies?
I don't
So
know. I mean, they were out there. I mean, I'm not the first one to write about them, and Farrar wrote them about them beautifully and Hear Me Roar. I just took
yes,
it to another
yes,
level, and I got more in it. I worked on it for like 3 years, and not that she didn't, but just to put it in this format that looks like a scrapbook. That was my
yeah,
idea. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, we could have a whole nother discussion about female authors of motorcycle books. Maybe that'll be another conversation.
There's a lot of us out there, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. I would like to ask you one last question,
Mhm.
and that's who is your favorite
Mm.
character out of all of your books that we maybe haven't heard about, that we maybe don't know their story in full?
I always think about Olive Hager because she was such an unsung hero. She was a wall rider from the teens up into the 30s. And for a woman to own her own wall, traveling wall of death, I'm talking about where they ride around the wall of death.
Wow.
She was just an amazing woman. I don't know how she survived it all, though. She had a different kind of lifestyle. She was married on and off. I have all her scrapbooks, so I know all about her life. She kept everything, every little circus sticker, lunch ticket, everything. But to survive the things that she did, I mean, she had so many crashes where one time she came up off the wall and she had like 20 stitches in her arm. She was in the hospital. She had broken her pelvis. She had head on. She'd been unconscious. But to come back, and every summer she was out there doing that up until they called her the grandma of the wall. To me, tenacity, just to be able to get through all that, and a woman at that time to be doing that. I can't imagine what she went through. I'd like to make a movie out of her life someday.
Oh, neat. I hope you do. I hope you
I
do.
really do.
And I
Yeah.
hope that you share her story more. There's so many women that were just so interesting
Yeah.
back in the
Who's
day.
your favorite woman? Who's the one that you always think about?
Hmm.
Is there somebody special?
Well, I put so much effort and energy into studying the Van Buren sisters
Well, I guess you're close to, and the family connection, with
and
Bob
the family.
and
Yeah,
yeah.
I got to meet the great grandniece, and the entire Van Buren family was super supportive. They actually came cross country with
Mhm.
my group in 2016, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I asked you that question, because I've been so myopically focused on the women who I've done my events around that I don't know. So I wanted to learn something from you too.
Yeah, and it's like you just want to share their stories. You want to keep them alive, and they inspire us, and just to share everything that they did, I think is so important to me. Where they've been and what they did, and it doesn't matter how famous, if they're the Van Burens or the Hotchkiss, or there's some stories of some women in here that no one had ever heard of, but
Yeah,
just keeping their stories alive is important.
yeah, and thank you for doing that.
You're
If,
welcome.
if folks want a copy of your book, how do they get a copy?
They can go to my website, Criss, Cris, Simmons, SIMMONS.com, and I have autographed copies of that one right here, and free shipping and all that stuff. And then I also have this one I wrote on Cannonball.
That's right.
I don't have that many of these left, but I still have a few of those left. So
Right.
of the motorcycle Cannonball. So,
Cool.
and I'm getting ready to do another ride. I'm going to do the Chicks on 66 coming
I
up.
saw that. I can't wait to hear about that.
That's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe. I'm taking my old bike.
Sure will. I sure will. Any ride is a fun ride.
I'm riding on a really old bike, so we'll see. Could be fun.
Well, we'll talk more about that another time. Thank you so much for kicking off Women's History Month
You're
in
welcome.
style with Lady Motorcyclists. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you too. Take care. See you guys.